Welcome everybody to the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card reading. So today is one of a pair. So this is the first and then 3 days later and the next in my publishing schedule you'll see the other part of the pair or the two ends of, the bookmark ends or whatever, book ends, whatever you want to say. And this is inspired by a couple of decks that I just got that are sort of like sister decks to each other. Some of you may have seen, if you watch my deck creator interviews, interview I did with Raina's Man probably a few months ago for her Kickstarter campaign for this deck and the other deck in the pairing. So this is the Aya Tarot, and there is the Enchanted edition that you're seeing some cards from here, and there's also the Classic edition. The Classic edition is what I would call magical sort of tarot imagery for grown-ups. It's sort of like Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones-esque, that kind of thing. Whereas I would say the Enchanted edition is more for the inner child, for the youthful energy. So the artwork is quite different. The way that the cards are depicted is quite different, but both very magical. But I sort of feel like this is the sort of innocent, hopeful, young, youthful energy, whereas the Classic edition is more the we understand the world and we're dealing with the world type of magical energy. So that's kind of what we're looking at in this, but I'm doing a particular lens for it. What I felt about this when I thought, how do I showcase these decks? I felt there's a particular book I talk about sometimes. I've talked about it sometimes in collective readings. I talk about it quite often, actually, when it's relevant in private readings. It's a book that had a very transformative effect on me when I read it. So every once in a while you'll come across a book that really shifts your understanding of the world, yourself, all of that kind of thing. And this book is called The Soul's Code, and it's by an author, James Hillman, who was a psychotherapist, an esotericist, very interesting person, understood mythology, psychology, all of those sort of things. The book is still available, as I understand it. And what he takes in that particular book, he's written a lot of books, but in that particular book, he's looking at Plato's idea that in the acorn is the oak. So in the child is the man, and it's a very strong symbolic thing, acorn to oak, because of course an acorn doesn't look anything like a fully grown tree, and yet everything that was required to be the fully grown tree was there in the acorn, in a sense, in its DNA, or however you want to talk about it. So his thesis is that when we're very young, we really do show in the games that we play, the things that we value, the things that we want to be, all of that kind of thing, what our higher self wants us to be. He talks about it very specifically as a daemon, which is D-A-E-M-O-N. So it's not a demon as in demonic magic or anything like that. It's a higher self, and it knows what your potential is, and it wants to do it as soon as possible. I really relate to that energy because it's impatient, and so am I. So how you can often see it in children is when they really want to do something. They don't want to just pretend to be the warrior. They want to be the warrior, that kind of energy. And he uses famous people and their stories from when they were young to illustrate this. A very, very interesting book. And its thesis overall is that the best thing we could do, either for ourselves in understanding our path, is to remember what mattered then, or if we have children that are in our care, to look at what they really wanted to do when they were young. Look at that energy, listen to that, rather than going, oh, well, this world, pays lawyers well, or it's good to get into financial services. If they have the soul of a poet, maybe help them look at how they can do something with that energy. So to fully follow our path and to be all that we could be. So what we want to do is now look at that with the perspective that I don't think many children are going to be watching this. This is not made for children. So this is made for adults. But what we're going to do is we're going to, in the first one, so today's one, we're going to talk to your inner child and say, what does your inner child want you to remember now that it cared about when young? And what have you done around that? What could be re-remembered now? What's the transformative journey and the potentiality of it all? And then in the second one, we'll actually talk to your higher self and say, what does your higher self want to re-inspire you with? How far have you come? Where are you now? How does that kind of connect to what matters to you? And how can you really go towards your full potential on that level? So it's the childlike wonder perspective, and then it's almost the kind of realism of the world and how do we deal with it perspective. So the two sides, as I say, to the coin. So what we'll do is with the Enchanted edition, it's going to be the main tarot used for this, but I will use the Classic at one point just to kind of get a little bit of a hint about what the higher self might be thinking. But we're mainly talking to that part of you. and as I say, looking at what to remember. To help choose, then what I did is that I shuffled and I asked Spirit that the first 3 major arcana cards to come out would be pile 1, 2 and 3 respectively. So that may help with the choice, though if you want to go to more than one, go to more than one, and if you always go to pile 2, go to pile 2, that's all fine. But maybe if it does help, pile 1 has the Justice card, pile 2 has the Death card, and pile 3 has the Lovers card. So that may help you decide. Do whatever works for you when you know what reading or readings you want to go to. As always, I've got the timestamps in the description box below, and I'll see you there. So I'm going to have a look at pile 1, your entry into this, which is the Justice card. So whether you always come to pile 1 or whether this drew you, this imagery of the Justice card, to me, it speaks of a couple of things. Like, I'm going to talk firstly about what the imagery is telling me. Then I'm going to talk to you about what I think a justice calling for a young child might be all about. But firstly, I feel like this is a very powerful force rising above what is not clear, because it looks to me like she is on a kind of a platform above what looks like clouds. She's definitely in some form of a building, because you see the light coming from a window behind her, and she's holding the sort of scales up to the light to be seen, and she's holding that up more than the sword. But there is a sense here that if she had to, she would fight for this, but she's seeing the energy of what is true and balanced as being the true power. And she has a crown, so there is a kind of a sovereignty to the truth, sovereignty to balance. But I think finding a firm foundation in something that is unclear. So to me, for you, there may have been something when you were young where some of you may literally have been born into families where things weren't necessarily fair for some reason. It could be something within the structure of, favoured siblings. It could be that you were born into sort of some lack of privilege. So, but very early on, I think you had a sense of what is real and what is firm and what would be balanced, where things are not clear, where things are a little bit uncertain, or at worst sort of very woolly sort of thinking. So I think your soul, your inner child, wanted to find that balance and wanted to do it through the force of what is true and fair rather than through battle, but was ready to battle. And I think this is to set up for a life where you pursue something like that. For some of you, it would be to do something like go into the law or into some form of social justice or political justice, or even academic stuff where, or even scientific to some degree, but probably more around justice energy than around science. But there's certainly something about balance, and you could potentially connect clarity of thought and evidence and so forth with that sense of justice. So as I say, science or something like that, environmental science, for instance. But there is something there about that, and stepping up to take that position, because she is stepping up onto the platform here. It suggests almost that she has to come in to deal with that. So I feel that your inner child is saying that you came in to right some sort of wrong, whether it was literally in your family or whether it was sort of more sort of social or political or something like that. You are stepping up to that, and you're stepping up to it with the truth. But you are also stepping up with the capacity to battle if you need to battle. So I feel that your inner child wants a cause. And in anything that they are following, would want to find something that uplifts and is balanced and brings temperance. I'm feeling very much like it connects to the Temperance card. I don't know whether the Temperance card is going to come up, but I think there is an emotional energy to this too, because this feels like clouds, and I feel like that's condensed water. I'm feeling like part of what your inner child wanting justice is about finding balance and fairness around very emotional issues in one form or another. But for some of you, you may deliberately have chosen to be in a family where this wasn't clear, or where there was almost an initial battle to get a sense of what was justice and what was fair, and what it would be to come and step into your own sovereignty. So for your inner child, the things that would not work is to be in any kind of vocation or situation which was not fair, which was not balanced, and which was more about battle rather than reason. You're very smart. It's very much about reason, logic, those kind of things. And I think you're probably very articulate, probably very much able to argue a case, all of those sort of things. But if you were thrown into some sort of situation where it was all emotional and all unclear, or if you've been sort of like shepherded into some sort of job that is less about the mind and balance and logic and all those things and more about emotional issues or even more physical, then you're not going to be fully reaching what your soul is wanting to do. So there's something in there for you. So that we know that it's smart, it's intellectual, it's balanced, it's stepping into some form of power. So let's ask the tarot a little bit more. Let's ask, what does your inner child dream about, or what did your inner child dream about most when you were young? How did this justice energy sort of play out in your sense of self, the games that you played, the dreams that you had? We have the 5 of coins reversed. Sorry, I need to read these sometimes because I'm just getting used to the thing. The 9 of swords. Yeah, there's definitely something. I think that most of you might have been born into like either a lack of privilege or where there was worry about things like either fitting in or money or something like that. 5 of cups. Yeah, it wasn't easy. You wanted to find a way out of something that was not easy. King of swords, and you saw the mind as being the way to do it. The high priestess reversed. Yeah, okay. You were not a fantasist as a child. Like as a child, your inner child did not necessarily want to pretend they were Superman or something like that. Your inner child wanted to find some sense of logic, order, and practicality to come out of something that was quite difficult. I do think that most of you might have had either quite a difficult childhood around feeling isolated, alone, or feeling like money, resources, all of that sort of thing was limited. Because there's a sense of privation here and there's a sense of worry. And I think because your mind is very, very smart, you worked out very quickly as a child that your mind can take you with justice and with the King of Swords to the nth degree of something very quickly. That can work very well for you when you have a very clear idea about what would be fair, what's just. You sort of have the sense that makes sense. But where there's a lot of emotion, it just takes you into worry. The thing about the 9 of Swords, the reason that the 9 of Swords and to some degree the 8 and the 10 are so difficult is that we can imagine things as much worse than they are. So I think there was something in your upbringing, whether it is at school, whether it was in your family, whether it was a bit of both, where you saw where emotion, disappointment, lost dreams of others, whatever it was, made one worry too much, made a kind of inherent pessimism and an inherent separation out from others. And you wanted to find a way to rise above that, to become more logical. So everybody who comes to this channel, I think, has a very spiritual aspect, but your inner child almost suppressed the spiritual and suppressed the emotional to find this because you were surrounded by an energy of privation, as I say, on some level. So I think your inner child yearned for a fairer environment where the emotions did not cause discord. So I think you've come in as a bit of a mediator, a bit of a negotiator, a bit of a person of peace as well as that. That's why she's holding the balance up before the sword. So peace before war. Yeah, and you have a very good sense of like what is emotionally over the top. So I think your inner child wanted to find clarity, wanted to find a fair system, wanted to move away from too much emotion around you. So I think you'll know if this is your reading, because I think it was a difficult childhood on one level or another for that reason. So let's ask, what are you pursuing right now that would meet the wishes of your inner child? 5 of Wands reversed. Yeah, peace. You want to find peace. Knight of Cups reversed. That is not emotional. Yeah, you're kind of detached a bit to be not emotional. Page of Swords reversed, where communication is not fair or not right. And the Devil. Okay. So I think that you've gone into some form of justice, some sort of, your very smart mind and your capacity to debate and do all those sort of things. I think you've gone into the belly of the beast a bit to try and bring about something that was fair. You like to bring clarity. So your very sharp mind brings clarity, but it's very detached. A lot of people would see you as a peaceful person and a person who brings peace and balance to a situation, but very few people get close to you emotionally. And this might be something that your inner child wants you to think about, because some of what triggered this was a sense of being separated out. So if you want to reconnect to this, Yes, she kind of looks like she's a sort of like a lone sovereign in a way, stepping up onto the podium. But I feel like it's also to bring balance in all ways. And you can't bring balance in all ways if you are actually separated too much from people. So she's meant to be leading. She's meant to be seen in some way. But I feel like there's something in what you've done, probably in large organisations or things like that, or in political causes or whatever. You have been a peacekeeper and you're very, very good at it. But at the risk of not communicating your heart, because it's almost like you feel like that's where you've seen it overflow before. So there's a little bit of wounding from your inner child to be aware of, that will, just being aware of that brings you more of what you really came in to be. So what have you forgotten? What has your inner child forgotten? Four of Wands, that it is capable to connect with others. I think that there was a disconnect from others or whatever because of something that was wrong. You've forgotten that you're not just here to bring peace, but you're actually here to bring connection. The King of Coins reversed, and that this is an old order to bring a new order in. Like you're actually meant to actually shift something. Page of Coins reversed. And you're not doing that right now. So it's not just that you are meant to come in to be able to almost arbitrate, negotiate, bring peace. You're actually meant to create something new out of that. This feels kind of Arthurian to me, I've got to say. I feel like it's kind of like Arthur picking up Excalibur, but like focusing mainly on the mind, but he also needs to reconnect to the heart and reconnect to the land in some way. And yeah, Seven of Cups to reconnect to the heart. And what is the ideal? Because behind all of this, if you come in with justice energy, you're very idealistic. So behind all of it, there is an ideal. So it's remembering the ideal of justice and balance and peace, and that actually brings community and connection, and that you're meant to reimagine and reclaim something that is meant to be more material. So you're not just the negotiator, you're not just the arbiter, you're not just the judge, you're not just the person who kind of like thinks about it. You are actually also a creator. And I think that's what your inner child wants you to remember. So let's just get two cards from the Aya Tarot Classic Edition, which is more the grown-up, or what the higher self, just to see the viewpoint of the higher self about this aha moment for the inner child. Because when you look at the other video, it may or may not connect to this. It may actually connect to something else. Your higher self might want to focus on something else as well. So it almost takes into account the idea that you've probably seen this one before, and therefore we don't need to necessarily go over something unless it's very connected to what the higher self wants. But what does the higher self have to say about this revelation? The High Priestess and Three of Cups reversed. Okay, yeah, the High Priestess is saying that, like you did come in more like, remember I said like temperance? Temperance is more like an alchemist. So I think it's, like it's the two that bring balance, and justice brings the intellectual balance, the rule of law, but there's also the balance of the emotion. And this is saying that you have a very strong spiritual connection, which connects back to what your ideal is. But something hurt that. And what your higher self wants you to look at and recognize is why that's made you step back from that. Like I almost feel like what this is saying, and why I saw temperance there, is that your inner child really came in with temperance. But because of the situation that your inner child was in, it fell back to justice, because justice, at least it's clear, like things are logical or not, things make sense or not, things are fair or not. So I think your higher self wants you to reclaim the heart side of this as well, part one. Okay, so what I wanted to look at, I wanted to use the concept of archetypes and alchemy, because when we're very young, there is a sense of the longer term journey that we have, what your inner child might have sort of seen as its potential, the acorn to the oak. It's a transformative energy. We're always going to be transforming, and this could be moving from justice to temperance for you. And so I want to look at the energies around the first principle that you came in with, the foundation that you were creating from, which I think picks up some of this energy of maybe the home life or school life or something like that, and then the potential outcome. And I want to look at it both with the Wild Unknown Alchemy deck and then also with the Archetype deck. So just get a sense of that energy around your inner child, what it saw about your soul's potential. And then we'll have a look at what stories, fairy stories and mythologies might have impacted how your inner child dealt with that kind of energy. So around the alchemy, around what was transforming within you, or the potential of transformation and growth for your spirit, for your soul, with what you came in with what your inner child was looking at. The first principle energy is the sun's splendor. Yeah, so you came in with a great deal of joy, hope, creative energy, but you came into some sort of environment. It'll be interesting when we see the archetype and the mythology that came with it, that was not, you had a vision of what could be, the sunlight coming through here, but it's kind of almost the minute you came in, it's behind you and you're kind of in shadow. So I think this is really saying that you came in with a glorious, wonderful concept of what could be. The foundation that you found yourself in at that time. Saturn, yeah, that makes sense. The material world, what was kind of like the structures of the world, potentially monetary things, potentially being alone, having to be old before your time for some of you, like what were the limitations? And in a way, the King of Swords and Justice together, not mediated by the High Priestess and Temperance, is very Saturnian. So you came in, but you were meant, remember we had the King of Cups reversed and the King, was it King of Cups or King of Coins? No, the King of Coins reversed and the Page of Coins. You're meant to bring in something new. This part of what you were doing is to move out of the old order into a new order. So the foundation was that you came into something very, very set in place, very calcified on one level. So you needed to deal with that. You came in with this incredible vision and confidence and optimism, and then you hit harsh reality. So then what was the potential that you were meant to be awakening? Mystical sister, okay, connecting spiritually. Okay, this is maybe the High Priestess as a person or a spirit guide as well for some of you, because mystical sister is that. It's connecting to the spiritual. It's like almost being forced to do it. So I feel like that you are very spiritual, but you came in with that. But this leaden energy with the Saturn pulled that down. And so the potentiality connecting back to the High Priestess, to your spiritual energy and your spiritual guide, was what was important to find. So let's see the archetype around each of these. So coming in with this wonderful optimism. The gem, yeah, you were bringing, I see it's like a gem there as well too. You were bringing in something very special. The genesis of something new, as I say, rather than the leaden sort of energy of Saturn. So I think that you came in with you have come in with a really beautiful idea of something to do. But the gem also talks about finding this in difficult and sometimes hostile territory, and polishing the gem as a result of that, almost through the dissonance between what is and what should be. So what is, putting down the sword of what is to move to what should be. So you came in with a very beautiful concept, but you came into a difficult environment. So the archetypal energy around the foundation, anima mundi, yeah, it's all that it is in the earth. It is what it is in the earth. So you are very spiritual, actually, because this is saying that you came in with a sort of spiritual ideal, and then you hit the reality of earth and all the interconnectedness of earth. It gave you both a sense of what connection could be, what family, community, all that could be, but also how it's disconnected at this point. So I think you came in to reconnect to the earth and to bring in something new after things, as I say, had kind of calcified over. But it was almost a bit too much, to be honest. Like with the animal, it's like so much. It was like, how can I do all of that? Which I think is why you might have moved very much into the justice thing. I'll be an advocate, I'll be a negotiator, I'll be a peacemaker. And there's nothing wrong with that, but there's more that you could do. So what's the archetype that's around the mystical sister? The vow. Okay. If you decided, because you are about truth and about balance, if you decided that and if your higher self sort of pushes you towards that, your inner child makes you remember, if you decided you wanted to make a vow towards something even more than just what is right and what is balanced, but what is kind of beautiful and growthful, which is kind of your temperance energy, then all the spiritual energy you have will come to your aid. It's almost like you were the incredible sort of creative spiritual person that came in with incredible enthusiasm. Like I feel like you would have been the sort of child that had a smile for everybody on the street, but like over time, something that was difficult in your family, in your school life, whatever it was, or just, like the economic circumstances, it kind of got more and more leaden and more disconnected. It filled you with a fire in the belly to bring more justice and more balance. But if you connected back to this beautiful energy you came in with and your spiritual thing, then all the energies of the spiritual world want to come and help you. So let's have a look at what kind of mythology or fairy stories your inner child might have responded to in relation to these three elements. And to do that, we're going to use the Timeless Tales deck. So we're just going to ask for each of them. So again, the kind of fairy story or energy or programming or whatever that you might have come in with in your sort of first principle. And this could show a lot of the innocence and the beauty. It could also show what you were trying to find and protect the gem and bring the sun out in. So it could be either coming in with a cause, or it could be coming in with a very joyful energy. So the first one we have is authority. Oh, I think that's Excalibur. I'm going to double check with the book. Yes, it is. So no wonder I was feeling this King Arthur thing. And as I say, King Arthur, the whole concept of that mythologically is of the heart of the land, the Holy Grail, and the justice and the fairness and the round table and all of those sort of things. Like, you'd almost imagine the gem like the round table as well. So you came in with a true sense. You did come with a true sense of justice, but the beauty of what could be, because that's what the authority of Arthur came from. He's caring for the land, he's caring for others, he's caring for community. So you came in with something like that, really powerful energy. And I think you needed that powerful energy, because I think most of you had difficult early years. So then when you found the foundation, what you're trying to build that with, which has a very strong sense to the earth, which makes sense with that Arthurian legend, what was the kind of fairy story or mythology that you were connected to then? Adaptability. Oops. That makes perfect sense, actually, because that's Thumbelina. And you know how I said, like, it was almost too much, it was almost too vast? Like, you come in with this sort of sense of, like, purpose and joy and so forth, and suddenly you're in the thick of what the world is really like. And Thumbelina had to sort of, like, because she was tiny and she was dealing with this vast world, she had to find a way to connect with others and understand their perspectives and all of those sort of things. So I think that, like, when you were really young, Pile 1, I feel like you almost felt like, am I even going to be able to do this task? But you really did come in with what you needed. It's just that when you were very young, and the inner child may have felt, how do I do this? And a lot of what you did was talking with others, finding out others, finding balance. Again, it makes perfect sense that you would go to the mind. What do people have to say? How do they communicate? But then if we have a look at the potential, we have guidance. And this is actually, guidance coming from a spirit guide. This is saying that most of you, there is a spirit guide that wants to come in, because this is basically just the navigating, the tool of the navigators and so forth. So the mythology that we need sometimes to find our true north, all that kind of thing. There's something here where if you had a cause, if you really committed to that cause, or if you remembered it from a past life, whatever it is, connecting in spiritually, you will get the guidance that you need. So you came in with the authority, with the kind of almost magical imprimatur to do something. But it was like, it's vast. And sometimes it feels overwhelming. But you will get the guidance that you need. So it's overall a very positive energy, but it's like it was almost like you had to start out tough, to toughen you up and to make you understand the scope of something, so that then when you bring the guidance in, it can actually navigate you in a very true way. So overall, that's good. Let's get you some astrology for each of those stages as well too. So around the first principle, the astrology energy for you is Sun and Mercury, the way that you would communicate your mind, your life path. Very, very strong communicator. You've always been a very, very strong communicator. But it's about the sun. It's about, that is partly you with the sun's splendor, the sun with Mercury, authority, you understanding you came in with a kind of a destiny. But your communication skills and your mind are very, very powerful for this. The foundation energy is Mars and Jupiter. That's where you take on the battle. That's where you expand things. That's where you make things better. The fight is with the old, the as I say, calcified, to like reconnect and re-expand and adapt. Yeah, it's like that's where the battle is. The battle is with the old. So you have some battle, you've come in for some battle, and it's a righteous battle. And you will do it far more through your communication than through the sword, but you will take action towards the expansion rather, because, you know, Saturn is constriction and it's limitation. You're all about fighting for people being able to expand and be all that they could be. And then the astrological energy around the spiritual guidance. We have Sun and Uranus. Yeah, when you need the breakthrough and the inspiration, connecting to your life path, connecting to what you're trying to achieve, that will come through for you. Okay, so for you, your inner child wants you to remember you came in with a bigger task than even just being the peaceful person, the negotiator, the one who brings balance. So these are all very valuable things. You're also brought in to create something better. And to do that, you need to connect to your spiritual side. So it'll make a lot of sense when you do watch the next one in a few days' time, or, you know, if you're seeing this at some stage after this was published, then do go and see the next one, because I feel like your higher self then may be the guide that you need, or it may connect you to the guide that you need. But your vista of opportunity is bigger than you think, and I think your journey is from justice to temperance. So just to close out, we just want to get you a little bit of a wild card, just something that, you know, a different way of looking at things, a wild card, something an inner child might find amusing or interesting or quirky or different, to just close out the reading for you. I am moving between worlds along the path, travel my, yeah, you are moving, you are not stuck anymore, you know, and like your spirit guide will take you that. You are meant to be moving forward, you're meant to have momentum. But I think it's also interesting that we get sort of on a bike and you're even flying above the bike. But like what did you, it's almost like for some of you, you know, if you had a bike when you were young, when you went sort of like on your bike, where did you think you were going? What was the world like to you at that point? Because you can even fly above that and get a different perspective by understanding that. And you are moving on, you are meant to be able to activate this even more than you've thought, part one. So I hope that resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 2, to your reading. So you came to the reading with death, and I think it's a very interesting death card. Now, for a start, death is not about death, as anybody who's come to this channel for any length of time would know. It's not about that. It is about changes and transitions. It is very scorpionic in nature, so some of you may have come through as a Scorpio or with Scorpio strongly in your chart. It's very much connected to the karmic life cycle, so I think there would be definitely something there where you are very strongly, there's a strong karmic sort of energy around this life and around what your inner child saw was the progression of your life. But it really is a choice card. So I think one of the things that your inner child came in with is always being able to change, transition, choose. So I think that there is, your inner child came in with an energy that said, I will evolve, I will transform, I will alchemize. I will not be stuck by anything rigid. I will listen, I will learn, I will move on, which I think is actually one of the best things you can do, because people get very stuck on being right, and then that makes them wrong more often than not. Whereas if you are open to new information, new circumstances, open to change and transition and growth, then you're always in a very good position. So that's all true of death in general. So I think that your inner child wanted that sense of transformation, change, karmic, balancing karmic energies, all that kind of thing. But the way this is portrayed, we have death on his horse, surrounded by groups of people in what looks like some sort of big arena. Like even up here, it looks like there's people watching up there, there's people watching here. It's like he's on a stage. So I feel like for some of you, this is about a life where you're meant to be in the spotlight, even the light that's coming down here. So part of the choice and change, it may have been very different, say, to a past life, but this life is about being in a spotlight and changing and being a bit chameleon-like in a spotlight, or moving and evolving in a spotlight. So I feel like for some of you, you could have come in to be great change agents, but the sort of people, I don't know, in an Anthony Robbins-esque sort of thing of getting up and talking to people about motivation. For some of you, you might have been brought in to act, to be honest, to be an actor or a performer in some way, to be changing and chameleon-like and seen, like observed by people, and to maybe create performances that show people, you know, the transition, the change, all that kind of energy. I'm going to say something very specific. For some of you, if you are athletic, it might actually be a little bit of an indication because of when I'm doing this reading about like Olympic sort of like prowess or something, only because the opening ceremony in the French Olympics just now had the pale rider, had the death symbol at the beginning of it. So I wonder whether some of you, you're meant to be in the spotlight for athletic prowess as well too. But I just feel this group are meant to be in the spotlight. You're meant to be performers. You're meant to be chameleon-like in some way. You embody the concept of transformation, change and choice. There would be a very strong wish for freedom, but you are also being watched. You are being seen. Whether you had that right from when you were young, like whether you were, in a family of performers or something like that, like children of celebrities, for instance, could fall into this sort of category. That could be the case, or it could be you were just born to be in the spotlight and how you change and evolve. If I was thinking of musicians, I'd be thinking about people like David Bowie or things like that, people who change and transform a lot. So there's something there. You have that capacity. Some of you as well, because of the scorpionic overlay, what you are changing and transforming and growing into could have a very strong high magic energy to it as well. So interesting, but I feel like you were born to be seen. Whether or not that has still happened depends on a whole bunch of things in life, but I think you were born to be seen. So let's firstly look with the tarot about what your inner child really most dreamed of when you were very young, coming in with the death energy. We have the Eight of Coins, the Hermit, the Four of Coins reversed, the King of Cups reversed, and the Knight of Coins reversed. Okay. The transitional change energy, for you, it's about developing skills and trying them out and using them for when you use them and then moving on to something new, because you've got this sort of sense like perfecting of craft is the first thing you came in to do. So again, if you're a performer, like perfecting your craft. But it's interesting because over here we have the Knight of Coins reversed. So it wasn't to get stuck in one thing. It was a craft that would work for the time. Like you almost feel like a Renaissance person, actually. When they talk about a Renaissance person or a polymath, I talk about people who have more than one knowledge base, more than one skill. So I feel like your soul came in with a lot of things. It could wear a lot of hats. It could perform and show itself in many ways. And you are always wanting to learn more. Some of you, if some of you actually came in wanting to be a little bit more behind the scenes, learn spiritually, learn otherwise, like academics, that kind of thing. But I think even then, if you're an academic, to fully live with what your energy is, you need to be seen. It's not just be an academic, be a professor or a lecturer and talk to people and show people what you found and help other people find their way, bring the light to other people. The light's coming in here, show people an example of it. But there's a continuous learner, a continuous developer of the craft, never getting stuck. Four of Coins reverse, not saying this is enough. It's like if something isn't perfect anymore, or if things have changed and circumstances have changed, you change. And it's very creative. It's a very creative emotional energy with the King of Cups reverse. There's a sort of a alchemizing emotionally all the time. It's not just skill for skill's sake or performance's sake. It's to have an emotional resonance that helps others. So this is, again, you're having the people watching. I'm getting for some of you, in the olden days, physicians or whatever who were teaching other physicians, they would, the physicians would sit up in these sort of stands and watch something being done. Even with that, even for those that have come in and the life and death thing is around health. So I'm getting for some of you, it might be that. It was it's like you're meant to teach others, always develop the craft, always take it forward. But helping others as well. So it just depends on what you do. But whatever it is, this is you are focused, very focused on the craft and on not getting stuck, keeping that energy and change energy coming through. So whatever career, vocation or whatever you did, that's the energy. But I do think for some of you it's performing. It's being very emotionally resonant and kind of almost maybe a little bit spiritually sort of evocative in what you do. So what are you pursuing of that at the moment? What are you really trying to do in that space at the moment of your initial dream? We have the King of Wands. Yeah, I think a lot of you are very creative, very creative. The Emperor. and sovereign to your own creativity. We have Judgment reversed. Okay, but you're not doing everything. Okay, you're not doing everything. And the Magician reversed. Okay, all right. So most of you are very focused on the creative. You're very, very accomplished creatively in whatever way that is, whether it's a traditional performance creativity or whether it's something else. For some of you, you've created businesses or you're ready to create businesses. You are seen as being very, very ahead in what you do. Whatever it is, you're kind of got a sovereignty. People think, yes, you've really done it. What is interesting, though, is that people, firstly, they don't understand fully how you do it. With Judgment reverse and the Magician reverse, we're looking at what you've established. You've established this creative energy and being really, really sort of front of your pack. But with Judgment reverse and the Magician reverse, they don't see how. So I think there is an opportunity here for you to teach people something. But for most of you at the moment, it's almost like, it's not sleight of hand because it is real, but they don't see it. They don't see where the decisions and the change points have come, and they can't predict when it's coming with the Magician reverse and Judgment. So you keep people on their toes. You keep people wondering what's happening next. And you make, therefore, a creative dynamism coming out of that. You could be an entrepreneur, an innovator, something like that. People don't understand it. There's a bit of misdirection in what you do as well. Particularly, if there's something spiritual and you only want certain people who maybe are the right people to learn from you to see it or understand it. So what's frustrating that? So or what's frustrating the fullness of what you could do? The World reversed. Okay, that's interesting. The Ten of Wands reversed. The Eight of Wands reversed. And the Chariot. It's all about the speed. Okay. The thing for you, you are a natural change agent. You're a natural chameleon. You're a natural creator. All of those sort of things. You're very, very talented. What could be, and you are seen, I think, in many ways in doing that, though people don't really understand how you do it and they don't know what to expect from you. But like that, I think works in your favor. What is a challenge for you is that sometimes because you are always evolving, you don't think you fully finish something. It's like it becomes the weight of doing that is just slowing you down and you need to move forward. So time is your issue. Time frustrates you. Because you have so many talents, it's because there's so much you can do. Like, how can you do it all? So it's almost like you're always having to kind of reassess what you carry and what you leave behind. What do you finish and what don't you finish? And that can happen. Like, there are people, in organizations who are the innovators, who are the creators. Quite often they come in and they don't see something through to its full creation because they're on to the next thing. And that's good on one level, but to fully be seen, like from the beginning to the end, and if you think of the death card, it is kind of like that, from the alpha to the omega. You have to kind of get that in balance and finish things rather than feeling you have to rush off to something else. So I think there's a lot of demand, a lot of change around what you do, and you're very, very good at that. And you kind of want to stay ahead of it so that people don't understand what you're doing. Like, you don't want to hang around long enough in what you're doing for people to fully understand what you're doing, because that's part of the magic of what you do. But the challenge then is, are there things that you feel were a bit incomplete? So let's see with a couple of cards from the Classic Edition, what does your higher self want to say about this? You can find out a lot more about it in the next set of readings around the higher self's view. But I just want to see what they think about this. The Lovers reversed. And the World. Okay. They say the main thing that is not getting completed for you is key relationship issues. So if you're changing that much and always sort of like being ahead of the pack, are you making the relationship connections you want? Or do they complete because you rush off to the next thing? So there's something here about getting this balance for a relationship. And that could be relationship and work, it could be love, it could be anything. But there is something there where it's having a bit of an impact on your, whether it's your love life or your emotional connections. And it can happen when you're ahead of the pack and you're changing so much. So it's thinking about, like, what do you need to do with that? What do you need to complete so that you actually have the relationships as well as moving to do this? So that's the challenge for you. So let's have a look at it as it evolves. So we're going to use the Wild Unknown Alchemy and Wild Unknown Archetype deck. And we're going to be looking at 3 stages. The first stage is first principles, what you came in with, what your inner child came in with. Then we're going to be looking at the foundation. So what was your kind of childhood, the basis on which this ability, this potential could be built. And then we'll have a look at what's the full potential of that if your inner child was fully satiated, so to speak. So we'll start with an alchemy energy for each. What's the transformative stuff? And that's very much up your alley because you are in built transformation. Then we'll look at the archetype energy with it. So alchemically, the first principle, oh, this is interesting. This came up for another one. Sun Splendor, coming in with knowing what your life path was, coming in with the light, coming in with something beautiful, creative to bring in. So you brought in a lot of talents, you brought in a lot of spiritual development, really keen and clear idea about what you wanted to do with your life. Okay. Then the foundation that you found yourself in. Resin, now that's interesting. Very early in the piece, and this might be partly that I'm going to learn my skills and learn them really well. You found a way to learn it and then preserve it and then move on to the next thing. And that works really well around your skills and what you're trying to achieve in life. It may not work as well around people, because resin is all about, it's a substance which you can put precious things in and then it will sort of harden over it and protect it. So you had a capacity, I think, early on you learn how to perfect something and then preserve it and move on to the next thing. But this could be a challenge around relationships, as I say. Then when we're looking at the potential, if you fully bring in the potential, benevolent guide. Okay, so you could become a benevolent guide to others, and I think that's partly what you're showing with the it looks performative, but it could also bring in a guide for you. It's interesting. There's quite some similarity in at least that and that energy to another reading. So some of you may have gone to two. So let's see the archetypal energy. So around the Sun Splendor with what you brought in, the cave. Okay, this is the mystic, this is the underworld. With death, you have a connection with the underworld, you have a connection with the shadow, you have a connection with what's hidden. I think you came in to bring to light and to show to the world all that you have. So this is, again, the performance, the showing it in the light. So, but you came out of a period of time maybe of intense study and intense sort of development of skills. You came in to show that now. Around the foundation, when you perfected certain things and preserved them. The crone, okay. This is I think it's protecting. There's a lot of age in this, and as I say, the crone is sort of the triptych of the female energy. It is the one closest to death, to the change, to the transformation. A lot of wisdom. You have actually protected, and you protected when you were very young, and your inner child knew how to protect a great deal of wisdom and a kind of a sense of maturity before your time. I wouldn't be surprised if many of you were very precocious at school, you really kind of, did very well. Or you were almost too good for that. Some really smart kids don't do that well at school because they're kind of bored. So, but there's something like that going on. But you did learn how to protect that wisdom. So then what is the full potential? Thanatos. That's really interesting, coming in with death. Because Thanatos really is about that. It's about the underworld. It's about being able to go through that transformation. I think you're very old souls. I think you really have gone through the karmic cycle a lot. And you're quite comfortable with the underworld energies, and you probably can get benevolent and positive guides from there, or you can guide other people with that as well. I'm just getting in again, it's very, very specific, and it feels a little bit different to most of what I've been talking about, but we are talking about people who came in with a lot of skills, who dedicated their lives to developing more skills and so forth. Some of you may be very good, because these are healing energy for some, around helping people deal with the passages of life, and through, going, people who are very good at supporting people who are going through end of life processes and so forth. Again, very, very specific. But you have a very strong connection to the underworld and a lot of wisdom as a result of that. But it's you're meant to be on a stage in some way. You're meant to be seen in some way in this life. So balancing those things, when a lot of that is kind of hidden wisdom, but then how do you perfect that, preserve it, but then also present it in a way for what you've come to do? And then also, how do you connect with others if you're sort of half in the cave in the underworld with crone energy? There's something here that is a bit of a challenge around relationships. So let's have a look at the kind of energy around each of these that a child might have seen in fairy stories. So I just want to get a little bit more of an idea of the energy, because the fairy stories that we relate to when we are young tell us a lot about ourselves. So around bringing in this sun's splendor, this beautiful optimism, but coming out of the cave, out of the underworld, because I think you guys came out of the underworld. We have firstly charisma. Oh, that's the Pied Piper. So, I mean, the Pied Piper performed, drew others along with them. I think that one of the things, and this is why it's important that you've had the crone there for wisdom, is that you have a very alluring sense. You can draw other people with you. You've come in with that, and you are comfortable with, the spiritual, the underworld, all that kind of thing. But one of the things, and this is maybe why there's issues around relationships, is that you have to be aware that not everybody can follow you. If they do, then they maybe lose themselves. There's something very, very charismatic about you. So it's like balancing that is really important. Then the energy around the foundation, when you're preserving the wisdom, when you're very young. Authority. Okay, so this is about knowing what is real wisdom and real truth and real support and what isn't. Because this is a story of a emperor who had a parrot that was very much loyal and told the truth, and then he got a mechanical one, and the mechanical one, he thought, oh, this is better, and the parrot left. But when he was dying, the parrot comes back and is actually the one that can tell him the truth. So I think this is like what was important to you was knowing what was true. And I think that some of you had a very strong sense of past lives and what you brought in from past lives. Like I think some of you just naturally did that so that you could actually know from having gone through a full life before and almost having a sense of it. Like I think you're one of those kids who probably knew their past lives in some way. So really think about what you thought about life and who you thought you might have been. There's a wisdom there that you've protected coming through. And then when we look at the potentiality, trust, Bluebeard. Okay, all right. You people are interesting. You have lots of the underworld, lots of secrets, lots of knowledge, probably some of it painfully got, both from other lives and maybe even from this life. Though this life I feel more was just, you have the skills, the dexterity and whatever. But one of the reasons I think that you continue to sharpen your skills and you try and stay ahead of the pack is that at some point you had a almost Faustian pact. And like, so you had like relationships or whatever, maybe guides or whatever that did cost you. So I think you're trying to perfect and move ahead. Now this could have played out in sort of like growing up, or it could have been from a past life. But when you think about Bluebeard, it's like there's a secret that somebody has that if it's seen, that is the end. So there's something about, there's something also here about understanding when the end is coming in a way that works, not in a way that beguiles and takes people away, not in a way where it has to wait to that to see what is authentic, not in a way where you uncover a secret that is not good. There's something about understanding, dealing with that energy of transformation in a way that can move past that. But you do have a bit of a secret up your sleeve. And like those that you allow close are only very special people. And you could draw people with you. So it's an interesting energy, your inner child. Your inner child knows this performative side and so forth, and you have brought in a lot of wisdom, but it's how you use that responsibly as well. And what fears of how that could have been used against you are you protecting yourself again? And have you protected too much there? Do you need to reconnect? Like it's a very interesting energy for you, but it's sort of done on the stage in some way. It's all being seen, so that heightens it. Let's see the astrology energy for each stage. So around the first principles, what you came in with, Venus and Uranus. So you came in with a great deal of heart, but you came in to stir everything up and to inspire. And that's a very Pied Piper feeling, like the beauty of the music or whatever, inspiring and drawing people away. Like you came in with a lot of natural charisma. Then around the foundation, Uranus again and Pluto, like big change. Well, yeah, you're a change agent. Like you're all about change. So I think you've done this before, and like now you can be seen, the skills that you have, all of that kind of thing in this life. And I think for many of you, you'll do it in some performative way. It's very profound on other people and very inspiring, but it is about change. It's like you're not afraid at all of change, whereas a lot of other people are. And what about the potential? We have the Sun and Uranus. Yeah, like it's all about Uranus for you. It's all about inspiration. So the change is about inspiration. The life path is about inspiration. The heart is about inspiration. It's all about that. The transformation is all in service of inspiration and performance and brilliance. Like you're brilliant. And this is the thing. You came in very, very, very smart as a child, very skilled, dedicated to more skills. Ahead of the pack, definitely. But the only issue around all of this is it allowing you to ground relationships? Now, you may not mind, but it could be an issue for you. Okay, so balancing all that, let's get you a wild card. And you'd relate really well with a wild card with all that Uranian energy. A wild card to kind of bring this energy together. It's like your inner child's very old. Sorry, but it's very old. So it's sort of different. It's old and it's evolved and it changes. And it's almost like maybe you can return to the inner child energy each time you change, but it's layer upon layer of wisdom and learning and so forth, but change. And I guess the one thing would be, is it change for change's sake, or is it change to show and teach and heal? I think that's the thing to think about. But the wildcard energy to close out the reading. Final point, game over conclusion, need to close, transmutation after the end. For some of you, this might be your last incarnation. So this might be part of what this is saying. It's the last hurrah. It's like, at least on this earth, and to bring all the skills together and you're meant to perform and show all this and be a change agent and then move on to, some other galaxy or some other dimension. But you're all about that. You're all about endings. Doing something, perfecting it, and then moving on. So, and your inner child needs to do that to feel that it's moving forward and it's doing what it needs to do. The only thing I think always around this is, what does that mean about relationships? And it may be that you're now here to teach others and perform and show that, but to be a little bit separate out. So very interesting energy. I hope that resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 3, to your reading. So you come to the reading with lovers. So that would suggest to me that your inner child came in knowing that choices about relationships, key relationships, and they don't have to be romantic. Lovers is all types of relationships, are really going to be important to you, or were a big part of the dream and who you wanted to be. So connections with others, and for some of you it could have been, I've come in to find my soulmate, my twin flame, whatever terminology you like to use. For others it could be, it's all about family, it's all about community, it's all about relationships. But whatever it is, you are here for other people and your connection to other people, and your inner child wanted connection to other people. So the degree to which, I guess, you're likely to be living out the dream of your inner child may have a lot to do with early childhood experiences of relationships, what choices you had there, what connections you had there, all of those kinds of things. What I find interesting here in the way that this is depicted is that the lovers are almost being drawn up above the earth by the angel. Like in many versions of the lovers are standing on the earth and the angel is above. So I think that there is something where you had a sense that relationships elevate one spiritually and so forth. Also that there could be a sense that relationships, particularly maybe romantic relationships, first form and are seen and understood in the clouds, in the astral level, and then they manifest and they grow and they flourish on earth. The other thing I find interesting is the road that is sort of leading away here. Like it's a kind of a sense of the journey is about this. And I feel as though there's almost a choice here around, is the relationship going to be primarily spiritual and go up into that realm, or is it going to be following a road here? So, and you have a bit of a tilt towards spiritual relationships, but it doesn't mean that all of them will be. So it's just a very interesting way that the card is depicted, and that's what I get from it. I think your inner child maybe had a lot of like spirit guides, all that kind of thing. And you're probably very psychic. You probably do connect with people almost on the astral before you meet them, not just sort of soul twin type things, but in general. So let's look at this in a little bit more detail with tarot. So we're going to start with just a little bit more about what did your inner child dream of when you came in. Then we'll have a look at what are you pursuing of that at the moment, and then what is frustrating you, or what is frustrating your inner child. So a little bit more about what did you come in with? What was the dream? Two of Cups here, love, definitely. The Six of Cups reverse, a past love potentially, or maybe a new love actually. Six of Cups is moving away from the past. So Queen of Coins, but there was probably a choice about past love or new love there. Queen of Coins, Ten of Coins, family, and Temperance. Wow, yeah. You're all about the people. You're all about family, community, support, loyalty. I feel many of you came in to reconnect with a lover, to be honest, or with I do think a lot of you did that. But and to create a family and move forward, possibly from a life where things stopped that happening, bringing things into balance. It's sort of like, I feel like it's the same angel, and here she's sort of drawing the spiritual energies up to find each other in the astral. Here she's pouring the emotional energy to sort of reach them and to nourish that. So I think that for you, it was about that. It was about a past love, but in a new form. So I feel like for most of you, this is saying that you knew that there was a love of your life that in a past life maybe wasn't able to happen. You came in to make this happen. So to some degree, you living through and creating what you want in this life and what your inner child wants depends upon that happening. As a, not consolation prize, but other side of this, relationship in general, being loyal, being committed, family connections, all of that sort of thing. The good news for me, I think, is that the pain was more in the past. It looks to me like for most of you, you were born into a family, even if it wasn't like all families have their quirks, but it was pretty solid, it was pretty secure. There was the capacity. You would have had the belief it was possible. You weren't being born into a family where you saw your parents always arguing or having broken up or whatever. There feels like there was a solid ground for most of you, but I do think there's something in the past, or if there was some sort of a breakup very early in the piece, it evolved into something that was more settled, and this was the values that your inner child had from very young. So this is about relationship. So let's see, what are you pursuing at the moment, whether it's in career or in relationships in general or socially or whatever, that fits with a very relationship-oriented inner child. We have the Page of Coins. We have the Four of Coins reversed. The Emperor. I think many of you are doing something in your career around all of this. And the King of Cups reversed. I wouldn't be surprised if some of you have gone into careers where relationship energy is what you're making your money with, and healing energy. So some of you may have gone in because you're a natural for understanding people, bringing things into balance, understanding relationship dynamics. So you're a natural healer, natural therapist, natural counselor, natural spiritual healer, whatever it might be. I feel like a lot of this is at the moment making money for you, creating your vocation, and you're building something out of situations that need to be adjusted or need to be brought back on track, that need to be healed in some way. So I think this is a reading for people who relationships are their core, and it's also their business. So let's see what is being frustrated then, or what because I think you're actually doing quite a bit with it, but at the moment it looks more like it's around business and healing others rather than finding your love. So it might be at this point that's your ultimate goal, but you're kind of doing it for others at this point. So let's sort of see what's frustrated for your inner child. The Devil reversed. The World. Okay, there is some past thing or something you need to complete. The Queen of Swords. The Page of Wands reversed. Okay. I think this is karmic. I think that this is saying that you came in from a relationship, some of what has made you brilliant about relationships, and you can do, as I say, some form of healing, some sort of career around it, whatever it might be. You went through something very difficult. You went through something, I'd say, in a past life, a great loss. For some of you, I'm just getting it's not a past life. For some of you, depending upon your age, it might be a very early loss of someone that you loved. Like not as a child, but like, in your early adulthood, like you loved someone and lost them in some way. So, but there's something out of the pain, out of something from the past. You have been able to create this sort of understanding and this empathy and this balance and this healing ability, all of which is wonderful because you're brought in around relationships. That's what your inner child's all about. But you do need to free yourself because it feels a bit like physician heal thyself, because this looks like there's a belief structure about needing to somehow find the magical way to escape fate, to be able to revive what is passionate. So it's almost like there's a subtext story for you around all of this, which is that I didn't have the love that I was seeking before. I was hostage to fate. Now I've got to perfect this and understand it well enough so that I'm not hostage to fate again. Now there's some benefit to that. The more you understand around relationships and all that sort of stuff, the less you're likely to feel like you're hostage to fate. But I think that you're frustrated because you feel like you still need to know more and more and more before you're ready. It's almost like energetically you're stopping this coming out of the astral and coming into the world because you don't yet feel you've got enough to allow it to just happen and not worry about how fate would operate. So I think it is both connecting to love, but it's also disconnecting from the circumstances around love that made you want to heal everybody else and made you quite brilliant with that, but made you worry that fate was always going to debar it for you. So let's see what your higher self has to say around this. We will do more in the next set of readings when the higher self is the main one talking, but what does your higher self want to say to the inner child about this? We have the Queen of Coins. Yeah, you have it already. Remember you have it already. And Judgment. And remember, this is what you came in to do. This is your calling. And I think it's also saying what you can do in your business, however you've used this, whether you've done it as a therapist or something like that, or whether it's just that you're extremely good in your business with employee relations and work culture and so forth. Whatever it is, you have a genius for this, and that's your calling. So don't feel that you have to keep perfecting this and waiting, like you're ready to actually do that. Okay, so let's have a look at kind of some stages of the inner child and the soul's destiny in formation. So I'm going to use the Wild Unknown Alchemy deck. Because about the transformational energy that our souls come in to do. And we're going to do 3 stages. The first stage is first principles, what you came in with to start with. The second stage is the foundation. What as a child or the early years of your life was the change energy around you that has formed kind of what you have pursued of this and what you maybe have yet to pursue. And then let's have a look at the potential if you pursued all of it. So the first principles energy, the new pearl. Okay, out of something that was difficult comes something beautiful. I do think for most of you, you have a very strong spiritual sense. It's something you brought in from a past life. But for some of you, you might have, as I said, maybe in the beginning there was tension in your home family, but out of that came something that was even better. But whatever this is, there's an energy of understanding that out of adversity could come something wonderful, because the pearl is created out of irritation. It's a beautiful thing, but it's created out of irritation. So then the foundation, autumn, things that needed to pass away and be buried and forgotten. So yeah, I do think that there's sort of your wish to resolve something and bring it in is a valid wish, but you need to let go, because the circumstances of this life are not going to be the same as the circumstances of the past life, or if there were difficult circumstances in your very early years, they are not going to replicate. And I think Spirit wants you to know that. And then the potentiality of this, separation. Now, separation is not separating out from a person. It's a stage in alchemy. It's where that which is no longer taking us upwards, like it's part of our transformation, we let go of. So this is a very strong energy of letting go of something from the past to bring the future in. And believing and knowing that in a sense it's already there. You've just got to kind of believe it and claim it. So let's see the archetypes for each of those. So around the new pearl, we have the cave. That's interesting. That came up for another one. So there's something, this is very hidden. This is very secret. It's very deep within. And it may be something that you need to kind of go within, like maybe a shamanic journey or something like that to access so that you can remember the pearl rather than just the sort of sense of being alone or not being able to see the light, because the light is there. And if you look very closely, there's some eyes you can actually see. And when you're looking into that, something looks back, which I feel is like the angel wanting to sort of bring you the light, remind you of the pearl. So then what do we need to kind of, in the foundation, what was in the foundation that did its time, but you're meant to sort of move forward from? Comic. Okay. Maybe one of the ways that you and others around relationships and love and all that kind of thing dealt with it was to make light of it. And that may be now something that can help you let things go. If humour helps you, then do it. But if humour is actually a way to paper over and hide the heart, then don't do that anymore, because you are ready to sort of move forward. Okay, and then we were looking at what we need to separate out from for the full potential. The archetypal energy around that for you is the riddle. Okay, all right. So the riddle is where, something, no matter what we look at it, it's never fully going to make sense. So you've got to almost sort of like say, okay, I'm not going to understand it. I'm just going to accept it, And like the comic and the riddle have a kind of similar energy in a way. And it's almost like let go of having to have all the answers, because some things are always a riddle and always a mystery. Separate out from that. Let go of that which you felt was what prescribe the past so that you can bring in and create the future. It's all there. All of this not knowing and all of this, whatever the separation was in other ways, is actually to bring you to the pearl, is it to actually bring you within and make you understand the pearl so that you can create for yourself. So I think you're meant to have this love. I do. And I think your relationships in general are very, very good, because that's what you came in to do. But there's a kind of a sense of, oh, I don't know that I'm ready yet. I don't know that I'm ready yet. And I think that your inner child's telling you, yeah, you are. So let's have a look at some of the other programming around this. So let's have a look at some fairy stories or timeless tales that also mark out what your inner child was responding to or feeling about those stages. So they're in First Principles. The Great Gatsby. So the Great Gatsby is a return to something, but I think like it's interesting, because I almost feel what this is saying for most of you is that there might have been, and this might even be, it might not even be, like the inner child might be talking to you, like the inner child came in for relationships and it's telling you that you're very good, but maybe there was a relationship in this life that didn't work out and you keep being pulled back to that. And I think your inner child's saying, no, let that go, because the real thing, you've come in for the real thing. Because when you think about it, Gatsby loved Daisy, didn't feel good enough, went away, became really rich, came back, but Daisy was never going to be worthy of Gatsby. So it's like, I think there's something here, like whether it's in a past life or whether it's even in this life, you are so good with relationships and you are so good at helping others, but it's like, it's almost like you're tied to something from the past. And it's like understanding that and the irritation of that is the thing that brings the pearl to bring in something better. But you've got to accept that you're probably never going to know. He would never have known fully what was going on in Daisy's mind, okay? So then when we look at what needs to be let go of or made more light of in the foundation of all of this, we have delusion. So I had to look that one up, and it's Don Quixote. So there's a very strong message starting to come through pile 3. Don Quixote, a bit like Gatsby, did everything for fair Dulcinea, tilted at windmills, saw himself as a grand knight for his fair maiden or whatever, but it was a delusion. It was a glorious delusion, the impossible dream, so to speak. But there's something here about letting go of the past. So whether it's from something that was not something, because you are more than ready and you are born to be in a good relationship and one that is real. So then let's see the potentiality. Perspective. Now this is the Little Prince. The Little Prince goes more out into the world and learns of the beauty of the world and connects with the beauty of the world. So I think this is saying that, you know, the angel here is drawing you into your spiritual being, into separating out from that which was not going to grow, and showing you the road that would. But it's a road forward, it's not the road past. So as I say, whether this is a past life energy that came in, or whether it's saying that this is actually your inner child's talking to you about something that's much more recent, a past love that you're finding hard to let go of. But if you did let go of it, you open up to the full potentiality of what you came in for. And one of the things that might be tricky about this for your pile 3 is because your inner child knows you came in for love, you might have felt like, well, this one has to work out. But it doesn't necessarily, because it may have been the irritation that creates the pearl that actually makes you understand what you were born for. So let's have a look at the astrology energy around each stage. So that formative stage, where there was meant to be something that irritated your inner child's purpose so that the pearl could be formed. We have Mercury and Saturn. Yeah, it's the ideas and beliefs that you have about things. That had to be challenged. Then when we have a look at what needs to sort of like to go into the ground as autumn, to be let go, the delusion, the thing that wasn't right, so the thing that is right could come through. We have the Sun and Neptune. Yeah, getting back to your spiritual connection, getting back to the astral connection, getting back to what it was really meant to be, as opposed to kind of like what had sort of like already been put in place. And the past, you know, the Saturn is the past. And karma and all those sort of things. So you were coming in for something karmic, but it's like finding the right connection. And then the potentiality. We have Moon and Uranus, yeah, for huge emotional inspiration and breakthroughs. That's what's meant to happen, because you are a genius at this, really. You just have to apply it for yourself. Okay, so what we're going to finish with is a blue dragonfly card, just for some other wild card energy around this for you. And then, as I say, the next set of readings that I publish in a few days' time, if you're seeing this when this is published, will be the higher self's view on this. But for you, I think this is, like, you were born for a great love. In this life, you might have met one that was a counterfeit, and this is like moving past that with your great skills and bringing in the right one. Or it could be that in a past life, the great love was stopped for some reason, and you're meant to bring that in. But beyond that, you are exceptionally good at relationships in general, and you need to back yourself, because then you will trust what happens around relationships. So the wildcard energy to close out for you is, wow, it's like Rapunzel energy. Am I naive? Spiritual growth challenges need to grow up. No, I don't think you are naive, but I think that that's what you keep saying to yourself. Like, you can believe it and help everybody else because you're so brilliant at this, but because of something like being burnt before or a past life thing, you kind of think to really believe that this is what you came in for is just naive. So I think this is like, embrace that spiritual growth, embrace the pearl being created, and trust yourself, because you are not naive at all. In fact, if anything, you're too hard on yourself in relation to love. So I hope that resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings.